Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated.
I'm rolling.
Nerdcore used to be just a made-up word. MCs shied away from.
All right. I hit the yellow space, Kyle.
You hit the yellow space. What are we playing?
I don't know. Board games? Isn't that what we're talking about today?
We are talking about border games?
Border games? Like Borderlands?
Done. Tapping out already.
You're tapping out already? We're already done. Well,
shortest episode ever.
Well, guess what? Welcome to Every Man's Guide to Nerddom, where we are two 30 to 40-something-year-olds who talk about pretty much whatever we want. I'm Chris.
And I'm Kyle. And if you guys would like to hang out with us and participate in the community in person, live, or delayed, or whatever, join the Discord. We got links in the show notes down below. There it is. Right below us. Discord's free. We've got all kinds of topics to talk about, from video games to movies, anime, comics, TV shows, beer, sports games, wrestling, inappropriate pictures of Guyver posted on the internet. There's lots of things on there that you can check out if you really want to.
That is a thing.
And if you want to actually interact and hang out with us live in person, we stream together every Friday and Saturday night on Twitch. Chris over there is Guyver Unit 01, GUYVERUNT01. It's twitch.tv/that. And then I'm on the Twitch as KSIG, K_SIG. I stream a little bit more through the week, and hopefully we'll be getting Chris on there more through the week, sooner or later. Maybe. Hopefully.
Trying.
Once you recover from your injury, we'll be good. So yeah, check it out. It's fun. Good times. Doesn't cost a dime. Just hang out. Make fun of us. A lot of people do it.
Please do. Well, most people make fun of us while we play.
Yep.
Even when we don't ask them to.
Mm-hmm. So we've got an interesting show today. I know.
What's it about?
It's about an hour 15.
Oh, okay,
what
good.
We're shooting for. We are talking about board games and tabletop games. And we've kind of done this a little bit, hinted on some things in the past, but we've got an amazing guest with us today, Mr. Matt Trammell, down below us also as well on my screen. So welcome, Matt.
Hello.
There he is. Oh, hi.
Hey. Hi, Matt.
Hi.
So Chris found Matt somewhere.
In a haystack. He was this little sweet baby Matt, just looking up at me.
You fed me straight from your teats. It was beautiful.
it was so delicious too. It was chocolate milk.
Oh, God.
I don't even know the science behind that. I don't know if I want to know the science.
You don't want to know.
No.
Don't ask questions.
His bosom, it grew from love.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Okay, I was shy up until this point that I was gonna breastfeed from Chris, so this is gonna be great.
Yeah,
well, that's how we break in all of our guests. It just doesn't always make it on the show, but
that's true too.
Congratulations.
Best friend from breastfed. Words are hard.
Yeah, you guys are best friends, so that's
We're
cool.
best friends.
Yeah,
wonderful.
We're bosom buddies.
There it is.
Oh,
God, we derailed fast.
Continue, sir.
Well, how we met, is that what you want me to go into?
Well,
because
we can do that. Or
how we met was I started dating Whitney, and you threatened to destroy my whole online life if I ever hurt her. And honestly, from a very early point, I was very intimidated by you. So
Whitney is a good friend of mine. She will be on the show at a later date talking about Wonder Woman, because for her love of Wonder Woman. And Matt happened to marry her.
Just happened to.
It just happened.
He walked into it. So, but yeah. So
I tricked her, basically.
He's a good tricker. And what backfired on him is Matt has triplets now.
I do.
So they are so cute, though.
They are. They're pretty great.
So, Kyle, what is the topic today? I know you briefly mentioned it, but what are we going over?
So today's topic, we're going to talk about board games today. And a little bit pre-show, we talked about board games, tabletop, what the difference is. Is there a difference? Is it a conceived difference? And we're just going to talk about like our individual nerdiness and geekdom and nerdom for them. Because I think we have varying levels of those. I think we probably have like moderate tabletop guy, board gamer over here, a little bit more, and then like extreme down below. So we have, we're just going to kind of discuss it a little bit. And this is going to be a topic that's really hard to satisfy everyone because there are so many. And just like with any form of nerdom, there's going to be somebody that likes that one obscure game from Czechoslovakia that nobody's ever heard of. And like, oh, well, you're not cool if you don't play, you know,
Czechs and Ladders.
Czechs and I thought it was going to be checks and balances where there's like scales and there's like some turnips over here.
That's all you're doing. It's just balancing.
It's like balancing turnips and potatoes is what it is.
Aww.
So yeah,
I like that game.
You're actually getting really close to an actual board game. So
oh shit.
I mean, I think there would probably be something for everything.
There is, like, that's the great thing about the hobby is like everyone knows what a board game is. Everyone probably has played a board game as a child, but like it's grown to like such a point that like there really is a niche for like everyone now.
So Matt, why don't you, we already went over how you and I know each other. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? Like, what do you do? What are your hobbies? You know, besides being a full-time dad, which that keeps you busy times 3. You know, what do you do? What do you like? Who is Matt?
Okay, well, like I'm an English teacher. So like big part of my life is just connecting to kids, and like I love connecting to kids, getting them to read, helping them just like through English and stuff like that. So honestly, I would say that that's like the biggest part of me is like education, honestly. Other than that though, I'm just like the stereotypical nerd. Like I'm in anything you guys have talked about on this show, I've been a part of. Like I remember you guys did like an adult cartoon and anime episode, and I was just sitting there listening to it like, yes, everything they're saying. Absolutely. So like anime, video games, I'm huge into reading. I just like read the second book in a great fantasy series, just all kinds of stuff. But my biggest thing is probably board games. It's just been like a big, I'm gonna say passion of mine ever since I like got into my first like role-playing group and we played role-playing games together, and like that led into like just tabletop as a whole, because before that I had like very little interest in it. I was just like, you know, video games are the top form of entertainment, but now I'm like, no, like board games are just the best. There's just something about them that are like so much more fun and satisfying than anything else.
Like the social aspect of being actually in person together with other friends and people of mutual interest around a table, usually with beers or alcoholic beverages or snacks or just whatever. And it's like the game's fun.
Children.
No, I mean like they have their own cups.
They get their own beer, whatever. I'm not
assholes. They need to buy their own.
If they get a drink of daddy's apple juice, it's fine. They go to sleep earlier.
EGTN does not condone child drinking.
No, not at all.
No, but I think it's a great strategy to get them to sleep.
It is a great strategy.
Little Benadryl in the Coke.
Yeah, we're good. So, just so everyone knows, the reason we wanted to do this is, I knew Matt had this huge game collection. We're going to go over this a little bit later too, because he actually had to do. It was probably one of the saddest Facebook posts, not like pathetic sad, but like it genuinely made me sad. Not too long ago, I think it was a couple months ago, saying I have to get rid of some board games to make some room.
Yeah.
And I could hear the tears in that post. Like, it's like when I had to get rid of some of my comics to make room because we were just frankly running out of room. Like, I could hear the crying in that post.
It was brutal.
So
these are my hundreds of cardboard children.
And you feed them all.
I do.
You're so brave.
The cardboard babies.
Cardboard babies.
Be
So
free.
it got you freaked out. It got me thinking. I'm like, this is a great little section of nerddom that we've never even thought about talking about. So I wanted to bring this to light because it's growing. I think it's growing in popularity over the past 10 years, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Yeah.
Past 5 years for sure.
Just shooting through the roof. I think the pandemic helped a lot too.
I think it's a byproduct of the popularity of D&D going up, because I think D&D is a gateway game. Oddly enough, like you would think that D&D would be like the end all for a lot of things. Like, oh, I've played some board games, I want to play something different. But I think it's flipped to where D&D has become so pop culturally popular that it's now that's the game. Everybody's like, oh, D&D, I want to play, and they start playing. And like, oh, there's these other things that I can play in shorter sessions with less people, or with my, that's introduced to all these other games. Like, oh, this is cool. And you combine that with like all the nerdy things that we like, which is collecting, obscurity, very niche genres and things. Like you can find it in this, and like the collecting of physical things, cardboard babies. So
I think Kyle hit it on the head there with the D&D. I didn't even think about that, but I think you're absolutely right. I think D&D's become more
book. That was right.
For once.
With my notebook. Score somewhere. Okay.
Good thing you can't find it. Now you can't hold it over my head. I think shows like The Big Bang Theory have helped. Nerddom grow in popularity, shown it's okay to be a nerd. Marvel movies, DC animated, Arrowverse,
Silicon Valley,
Critical Role.
Yep. Critical Role, Harmon's Quest,
like all those. I think that's really made it more popular, because if you all are watching, that's another new thing I forgot to mention too to y'all. Spotify has a new feature. You can now watch the video on YouTube or Spotify. You can still listen to it on Spotify, but there is video associated now. So you can watch this on Spotify. So you can see all three of our faces if you're interested. So if you don't want that. So here, if you're looking at the video, I have Candyland in the background right now. Board games have evolved well beyond Candyland now. Like, this is the preschool toddler game, the good, gateway game, I guess you could say, to board games, like when you're young. But now you've got all these advanced board games that Matt's going to tell us about too, which I think is just really cool.
I'm looking at your Candyland background that you have, and it'd be over, I'm going to guess that's probably your right shoulder with the kid with glasses, and it says preschool. But obviously, this is the U version of the game because it has age EDAD. And I would say that you are definitely an EDAD.
Yeah.
But, I think that's appropriate.
Or is it a dad?
No, you're an EDAD. It's like a sadder version of an e-girl. Yeah, is
a much sadder version.
Much sadder version. That wasn't the one you were looking for, was it?
No, it wasn't.
I'm telling you. There you go. You need to label those things. I've been telling you for months.
I do need to label these, but it's funnier when I don't.
So actually, while we're on Candyland, it's either Candyland or Chutes and Ladders was actually created by like a nurse in a hospital to help like kids with polio who couldn't walk very well. It helped them like create a sense of movement.
Really?
So yeah, like I can't remember which one it is or what the specific like disease was, but someone created that game to help kids like feel like they were actually moving, and it just kind of like exploded in popularity from there.
Okay, that's awesome. Cool. So there was like a psychological and medical reason for the game, then it wasn't just to pass time.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up really quick because I don't want to sound dumb on the very first podcast.
No, you aren't. You aren't. Kyle and I do a good enough job of that.
Yep. I sound dumb every week.
Yeah. Here, check this out. And this kind of goes with our women in board games thing. In the early 40s, when the dreaded disease polio struck thousands of Americans, Eleanor Abbott, a victim of the disease, sought to invent pastimes for children that were recuperating. So she made this, and like she wanted to create like a sense of movement, that they were still able to move and stuff like that. I always thought that was just really cool.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Like, and you did it for kids, you know,
Right.
which is just the awesome thing. And the kids who are stricken with this terrible, terrible disease.
So
I didn't know that. That's awesome, actually.
yeah, like I'm really glad that that's your background, because I've always loved that backstory behind it. And like, it's persisted for so long. My kids play Candyland. So
Oh, that's awesome. My kid tries to feed the pieces to our dogs, so I'm gonna wait like another 6 months and try it again.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Kyle, what is now that we've kind of gone into some of this, Kyle, what's the definition of a board game? What is a board game?
Look at a board game. You think board game or tabletop games. They're typically going to involve pieces, right? Figures, things like that. They're going to be moved, placed, manipulated on a board that's pre-marked. That's your playing surface, and the board's often going to include elements. You're going to have tables, cards, role-playing elements, even like miniature games or mini games within the games on there. Most are going to feature, or there's going to be some form of competition between at minimum 2 players. There are some single player type board games, role-playing things that you can do out there, but mostly predominantly known as a competition, played as a competition with at least two players. Some of your basic examples that you think of are going to be like checkers, chess. There's cooperative games like Pandemic. But if you think of like even the peg solitaire with like the golf tees and the triangle that you play at Cracker Barrel on the side, would be a single player tabletop board game. A lot of these revolve around real life situations. Some of them are fantasy situations. Checkers kind of has a specific theme and narrative. There's Clue that has a specific theme and narrative where you're playing out things. But the games themselves have been around for a very, very long time. I think kind of looking at the notes here, like backgammon originated 5,000 years ago in Mesopotamia. So there's like a long history there. You look at, there's going to be rule sets that you have to abide by. And usually there's going to be one person that knows the rules way better than everybody else. And they're going to hover that over you in some shape or form. But that's kind of your basis of, what a board game is. You take all those elements and you expand on it. And you've got this wide breadth of things that we're going to be talking about today. Different genres, what we like, what we don't like, guilty pleasures of board games. And they all kind of stem from this.
Right. And there are board games that they found board games like that are over 5,000 years old, that they have proof that were played. They found historical objects of them. They have, there was one called the Royal Game of Ur, was found in the Royal Tombs of Ur, dating to Mesopotamia 4,600 years ago. The earliest known games list is the Buddha games list. It's nuts. We're not going to bore you with the ancient board games. I just put a whole bunch of notes on here if there's any we wanted to bring up, but board games date back to as far back as they have found in note-taking in history. So it's just,
gamers have existed for multiple millennia.
But they just finally came out of their dark dungeons within the past 20 years.
People have been bored for thousands of years, is what we're getting to here.
Wah, wah.
Sorry, while we're on the topic, I know, like, if you guys ever want to like hear a really cool virtual essay about it, if you guys know who Shut Up and Sit Down are, the YouTube channel, they've got a really interesting like video essay on the history of board games. And one of them they talked about was like in ancient Egypt, they have this like little like board and like these pegs that you'd move around that look very similar to the thing whenever you go to eat at Cracker Barrel. And they have like those pegs that you jump over and you try to get down to one. It looks very similar to that. So yeah, it's nuts how long they've been around. Because like Whenever I was a kid, I thought Monopoly was the very first board game.
And then, boy, were you wrong.
They had the
Boy, was I
thing
wrong.
in Egypt. Would they have had it at what would their equivalent of that? It would have been like the Jackal Barrel.
Yeah,
Jacker
Yeah.
Barrel.
Yeah.
Anubis's barrel, like
Anubis Barrel. They just called it New Barrel.
New Barrel, right?
Um,
Where they literally drank actual Mountain Dew and played their games.
Ooh,
That's dew from the mountains. Just to explain,
it is.
straight off the rocks.
And they
Right
actually did have a gnomish rogue who skipped in to deliver the Mountain Dew to you as well. Little
just love
known
the
fact.
a gnomish rogue is the best statement I've heard today.
Better than a roguish
Welcome.
gnome.
Well,
You
yeah,
flip it around.
no, because we don't mess with them.
Mm.
We don't talk about gnomish.
No.
No. I knew Kyle would get that one. So the Romans had a lot of, there was actually a lot of history on board games from them as well, which, you know, the Romans can be credited with a lot of modern inventions like the aqueducts, stuff like that, modern plumbing.
Fighting animals to the death.
Mhm,
That
mhm,
thank them
mhm,
for that.
mhm.
It's really carried through the
Joaquin-
times.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, definitely Joaquin.
That
Um,
Polanski guy.
The Polanski guy. But they also have a lot of history of board games as well. Again, not to bore you all with the ancient history of board games, but go look it up. It's actually kind of fascinating if you like history stuff.
If you want to be bored about the Romans, tune into our next episode when we talk about how they really helped contribute to fonts. It's really interesting.
And new fonts.
New fonts, yeah. It's a good time. We'll
Again, back to the Egyptians, you've got the papyrus font. I mean,
That's true.
right there. There's
Yeah,
a connection.
they had their time with the Anubis's barrel now. We're going Anubis barrel.
And this is why we have a show flow. Okay, Matt. So approximately, okay, this is kind of a loaded question because I know you just got rid of some too.
Are you about to
Let's
ask me?
two-part this. Yeah.
Okay.
How many board games approximately do you think you own? And how many did you have before the Great Purge of 21?
Okay, so this is the part where I'm a little terrified that my wife will listen to this episode.
She won't. We'll bleep it out.
I have a Board Game Geek account because naturally, and I've got all my board games listed on there, and my last count sits at 134.
Impressed.
And where do you, was this before the Purge?
That is after the purge.
Before the Purge, estimated, how many did you have?
Oh God, 160, 170. I mean, you work with Whitney. She's probably you've probably heard her complain or joke about that collection. So
Oh yeah, she's complained a couple times. I mean,
Yeah.
not complained. She's mentioned.
now, granted, she does have her own board game shelf now because she's gotten into the hobby with me,
Aha.
and her number will astound you. Are you ready for this?
Yep.
8.
That's actually really impressive. With
Yeah.
as much as she has not complained, said about your collection to me before.
As
I
vocal
appreciate
as
that
she's been.
distinction.
Yeah. So she can't say anything now because she has 8.
Right, and I bring that up constantly.
What you
See?
do, you start
8 is-
shuffling some from your shelf, like one every couple of weeks, and put it onto her shelf. Like,
And hope she
you gotta
doesn't
do it
notice.
slowly, so she doesn't notice. Like, find some little boxes, and then like hide them behind the other boxes. And then like, oh well, you've got 17 now.
Yeah.
Where are
She
these
goes,
coming from?
Just Matt, what? Why is Zombie Strippers from Hell the board game on my shelf? And you can hear Matt go, "That's not mine. That's yours. It's on your shelf."
And look at the sticky note. It says not Matt's. So
No,
It's
I
not
would-
Matt's.
I would claim Zombie Strippers from Hell. I got that on Kickstarter.
early backer
He is
Yeah.
really-
made a separate account just to do so I can.
he got the
And
limited
honestly-
edition stilettos with it.
Just to make myself sound sadder, because I'm going to do that a lot this podcast, I think. sometimes I will take Whitney's boards and put them on my shelf and try to claim them because she's got some ones that I actually really, really like. So,
Like when you're posting
Yeah.
the pictures of them, like, oh, let's still have them over here and stage them.
no, you're
Going on the
joking,
gram.
but like, there's this whole thing where I'm like, oh, the aesthetics are just so wrong. Like this Euro game does not go next to this game. Like we have to fix this. The color scheme is just totally wrong.
What we could do is we could just take a picture of it, and then we'll just print it, and you can just tape it on the shelf. The picture.
You can do a high.
And then she goes to get it, and she goes, "Wait a minute."
Ooh.
So, I'm glad you mentioned pictures because I was gonna be sad. I have pictures of my collection that I took for this that I can hold up to the screen and show you guys.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, here's one. If you can see,
You have to take off the background.
oh god, I gotta take off my cool background.
It's a cool background, though.
It is a cool background.
That's
but
actually
because-
my favorite board game, Mansions of Madness. Okay, so here's one of my shelves.
Oh geez.
Filled.
So what you're saying is that it doesn't take a little bit of space.
No, me and Whitney have this giant walk-in closet. Oh man, you just flip through everything there.
I saw
But,
some
like,
ribs, though.
I did
Now
too.
I'm
Those
ready.
look delicious.
That was Whitney made me ribs because I've been a good boy and
You didn't buy any board games for a week.
Was that post-purge ribs? Like, oh yeah, good job. Here's some ribs.
no, that was actually
That was to lessen the blow.
like there's a few up there, but like yeah,
Oh,
like I'm
wow.
talking like freaking shelves full. And yeah, there's Whitney's shelf. It's the lower one. You can see all 8 of her games.
Hey,
Aw.
hey, she's got a shelf. She
Got a
can't
shelf.
complain
That's how it
anymore.
starts.
Yep.
See,
She
that's
can't
how-
complain.
I would love for that to start with her. I'd love it.
Have you played everything in that collection?
No, no.
Oh, that was the loaded question. I shouldn't have done that. She's going to hear
No,
that too
no.
now.
Yep.
Son of a bitch! I'm sorry, Matt. I let you down.
He
No, it's
did.
fine. She knows. Like some of them are still in shrink. Like that's how bad
Oh.
it is.
Well, I
Those are
can't
the
imagine-
collector's ones. You can't bring them out of.
Yeah, well, and I can't imagine you have all the free time in the world with 3 that are the exact same age. It's kind of play as you can.
Right. I mean, like we have game nights like every month, every other month or so, and invite a few guys over when we play them. But like, there's no way that we've gone through everything in that collection. It's nuts.
So how long? Okay. How long would you think it would take you if you played one game, and however long it takes for one game, depending on just based what you know on them? Because I know some games can take like 8 hours. Some
Yeah.
can go as quick as 30 minutes.
Days.
If you played every one of the games that you owned, just an estimate, how long would you think that would be? If you
Man,
played
that
them
would,
back to back.
Like we're talking like every day we play a game.
Mm-hmm. And
Learning
let's say you had to like end because like you were in the middle of one and you're already on 8 hours.
So let's just say like time to learn those games
Mhm.
because like there's some of those are pretty in depth. Like I would give it at least a year.
Really?
Maybe like a few days to learn it. You got to get people together to play them. Not all of them have solo modes, or I could beg my wife to play them with me. Yeah, I would seriously say a year. And I've actually I haven't bought a new game in months, mainly because like we've been kind of like tight on cash, and I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna get through all these games. So why am I spending money on them whenever I have this gigantic collection already?
I feel like when
I've
I
been
look at
trying
my
to-
Steam library, like, oh, I got all these.
God, whenever we had the kids, I got rid of my Steam account because I was like, I'm not gonna have time for this anymore. I'm mostly a console gamer anyway, but no, a Steam account, like, the Steam sale comes on, you buy all that stuff, and you just like, oh, I have this now.
Yep.
It's very similar to like what my board game collection is. I'll hop on like Miniature Market or something and be like, oh hey, Zombicide second edition's on sale. I don't have that. And just like click and like, well, there went $70. That was easy. But like, yeah, I've got just some of them. I just collect them, so I like having them. So yeah,
Typical nerd. You gotta
typical
have it.
nerd.
You gotta have it. I completely understand that. I think Kyle gets it too.
I was getting that way with my Funkos for a while, and also, I brought up the Steam because my first like 2 or 3 years back into PC gaming, every Steam sale, like it's only $2, it's only $3, and now I've got a backlog of stuff that I haven't played, and I don't know if I'll ever play, and I'm stuck with them because they're digital, can't get rid of them. Chris is coming on about a year and a half of PC gaming. I give him about another year, then he'll be like, "Oh, you'll eventually learn to resist the urges of the Steam sale." Maybe.
Will I?
I don't think so.
No.
No.
That's just going to be a part of your life.
It's It took me a while to break off of it.
When we're just kind of on that, like one of the nice things about board games, though, and I'm really going to harp on the nice thing about board games a lot on here, but so I switched over to a digital console. I actually got a PS5 digital version, right? Before I had that, like I was all about like owning discs, like physical versions and stuff like that. But I really do think that everything is going digital now. I just kind of feel like that's the future of everything. And that's kind of what's nice about board games is it gives you like a physical product, something that like you can hold and play with and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's another just allure of it is it's basically like a giant toy in a box.
And it's
I can see that
physical thing that holds value too, because just like we're gonna keep going back to the Great Purge of Matt's closet. Like
Great Purge of
if they were all digital, you couldn't have got rid of them. Like if you say, "Hey, I need, I'm not using this anymore. I want somebody else to enjoy it." You can't just give it to somebody to enjoy, or two, you're like, "Hey, I've got some stuff that you can't find anymore. It's just worth some money. We're going to the eBay." You can't do that with a digital copy of anything. So there's some extra value, I think, in the physical copies of things. I miss having physical copies of games. Almost everything I have is digital. I've got some discs here and there, but I got some movies here and there, but they're, I probably won't ever get rid of them, but it's still nice to have, a physical copy of something because then you can sell it if you ever want to.
And I mean, that's one thing about some board games, they go out of print. And when they go out of print, they like skyrocket in value.
That was actually going to be another question of mine. So give me an example of one that you know of that skyrocketed. And so they actually do. Is it market driven? I guess I'm asking if for the price, like if it goes out of print and it's just like super popular or.
Yeah, like some of it's got to be the popularity. Like it's got to be like a quality, good product that people want. And some of it is just like how hard it was to get. So like, I noticed that one of the questions in the flow was, what is your rarest game? So just to talk about that, for instance, I've got a game called Shadows over Camelot that was like one of the first games I ever bought for the collection just because I thought it looked cool. I watched an episode of Geek and Sundry where Will Wheaton played it with the guys from Penny Arcade. And that game now, you can, like, if you've got the expansion for it, it goes for over $200. I mean,
seriously?
Yeah. So, like, Whitney always jokes, like, "Hey, we're behind on this bill. I think it's time for Shadows over Camelot to go on eBay." And I'm like, no, that's my firstborn. We'll stay there.
I'm looking it up right now. I'm kind of curious.
I think that is that's the quote for the day. No, that's my firstborn.
It was one of the first games I bought, and I didn't know anything when I bought it. I didn't know that it was like a big deal or whatever. I was like, man, that box is cool. Look at those knights and stuff, King Arthur. Hell yeah, that's what I want. And now if you're like one of the lucky souls to have the super rare expansion that came out for it, that thing is worth some money. And there's a lot of games like
Merlin's Company expansion. Would that be it?
Merlin's Company. Oh wait, I thought you said Berlin. I was like,
no,
not Berlin. Like
Merlin.
Yeah, Merlin.
Oh yeah, if you got $300, holy shit.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's nuts.
Sold items. You guys keep going. I'm just filtering. I'm going down a rabbit hole now.
I've got behind me this Mansions of Madness, right? I own the second edition is my favorite version, but they came out with the first edition where someone basically plays like a DM and like they play as the monsters and stuff. But if you've got the first edition and like the expansions for it, you're looking at like $200 or $300 there. if you've got all the expansions for like the 3rd edition of Arkham Horror, like that's hundreds of dollars right there. Like it's nuts. Like, and some games like there's a Battlestar Galactica game that is really rare and valuable. And it's mainly rare and valuable because like Fantasy Flight used to publish it, but they lost like the license to it. Some of these games like that publish games based off of movies and stuff, they lose the license. And then when they lose the license, they can't make any more copies of it. So that game like immediately gets popular and immediately gets valuable. And that's another example of a game that if you've got everything to it, you're sitting on a small fortune.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it sounds really
So-
similar to like trading card collecting. Like I used to collect baseball cards when I was younger. Anything that you got that was out of print, that was a misprint, or that was off, or anything that was different or rare, it's just supply and demand. You got scarcity and you got people that want it. And you're going to find that price somewhere in the middle. And usually nerds pay up for the rare stuff.
Right?
Mhm.
Like what were those first Magic the Gathering cards? Like the
Alphas?
8. You know what I'm talking about? Like the Black Lotus card was one.
Oh
of them?
yeah, Black Lotus for the beta Black Lotus. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
like just stuff like that. That just like it's ridiculous how much you can earn for it.
And
So-
the Mox Black Lotus. Yeah. Yeah.
So we've seen how much space your collection has taken up. 180. What? How long ago did you start collecting?
Okay, so like you remember how you were talking about how D&D is like a part of like getting into this kind of stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I started playing like it was before I met Whitney, and I was with this group of friends, and they were playing this Marvel superhero role-playing game, which actually
I remember
you guys
that.
know. Yeah, it was great. Do you guys remember? You guys know who Margaret Weiss is, the author?
Yes. Yes. Dragonlance.
Yeah, I think she had a big part in creating that night. But like
Weiss and Hickman.
Yeah.
I think it was her husband, Hickman.
yep, I want to look it up now to make sure that I'm not crazy. But like, so we would meet and we would play that like all the time. And like that was kind of my first taste of tabletop. Is like before that, people had tried to get me to play Catan, and I'd played a lot of the like gateway games. Like Chris, you mentioned one of your favorite games was Cards Against Humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I am going to go ahead and tell you that, and this is like the elitist kind of maybe a little bit of gatekeeper in me. That's
Sure.
like
Sure.
some people kind of like look at Cards Against Humanity and they turn their nose up at it because they're like, oh, there is simply no gameplay value in this.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you enjoy a game that cusses about wieners and wizards' dicks and stuff like that. But like, we would meet, we played this game, and one day my DM was basically like, hey, like this Cards Against Humanity game, it looks really awesome. Why don't we try that? And he bought a copy, and we would just spend hours playing and laughing at that. And that was like my
It's
first.
just a fun game.
It is a fun game, and it's so easy to get that game to the table and get people to realize like how you play this game, why it's fun, and people just love it. They just have a great time playing it.
So you bringing up Cards Against Humanity and Wizard Dicks has given me the idea for probably my next D&D character.
And Wizards Dicks.
Whenever we get a new campaign going, I believe I'll have a wizard named Gandong.
Gandong.
Gandong. Yes.
Make him a merchant wizard, and he goes around trying to sell cards against wizard sticks.
Wizards Against
a game.
Humanity.
Wizards Against Humanity. It's a game he's trying to bet.
A lot of this,
Man, I need to get into another campaign because I
Wizards Against
love
Humanity.
having stuff that's just ridiculous or whatever. Like when I had the Dwarf Ranger, that was fun. But like, yeah, I'm making Gandong. Where's my
well, you need to
D&D
have
Beyond account? I'm
Gandong
gonna get that.
and his
Gandong.
stalwart companion, Dildo T. Baggins.
Yes.
And
Also going. Okay, now I gotta bring back up my D&D
and
Beyond
his special
account.
talent is he's got one of those old, like the Gandalf old pipes, and he can just blow whatever object you want with the smoke.
He has the
when you say
ability
blow,
to
No,
make
not like that. No,
anything. He can make anything out of that smoke, any image, but all he does is make smoke dicks.
It's smoke. Yeah. You see what you will in the smoke, my friend.
Gandong, it's the 30th time you've blown a smoke dick over the party.
There's our dick joke. Thank you. You're welcome.
I seriously got my D&D Beyond account up right now and starting to get the sheet ready.
Conservatively, Whitney, close your ears, please. How much money do you think you've sunk into this in your lifetime?
Oh my God. Okay. It's easily thousands. Like, I was trying to think about that question earlier about, because some of these games, like, you can go to Walmart and pick up a copy of Monopoly for $15,
Right.
That's what most people think whenever they think about board game prices, but some of these games go for like $100. I would say like the more like median price is 50 to 70 is about the average cost for some of these. But a lot of mine, I've got like, they're the bigger ones. I like having the bigger board games. Like I've got a copy of Gloomhaven. I paid $150 for that.
I want to play that so bad. You have no idea.
Oh man, I'm dying to play it.
I just know the effort that would go into getting, I think from what I've been able to tell, the effort of getting a group and a session going on that makes getting a D&D campaign together look like getting a Candyland group together to play.
Right.
Like I've heard it's just ridiculous and super long.
Well, like you were talking earlier about like your Rebel Assault campaign, right? I mean, like, it's basically like keeping a role-playing group together. Especially now that I'm freaking 34 and all my friends have kids and jobs, and it's hard. So, but yeah,
I get that.
Is like, it was 150, and I would seriously think that I've spent around 1,500, maybe. I'm going conservatively on that one because it's probably more.
Since you've had kids, has it slowed down a lot?
A lot, yeah.
Does it make you sad, or is it one of those where you're like, I get it, why I can't, when they get older, I can start again? Like, do you rationalize it, or does it just make you just unusually sad?
Honestly, no. Like with my kids, there's a lot of games I can't wait to play with them.
Right.
Like my son loves animals. He likes fantasy stuff. So I can't wait to play Mice and Mystics with him, where like we try our first like dungeon delving game together,
Right.
But like, it doesn't make me sad at all. I'm just like, this is just a new part of my life. I'm a father now, and they mean way more to me than like any of my board games do. Obviously, I joke about cardboard babies and my firstborn or whatever, but I'm so freaking proud of my kids that I'd never go back.
Sure.
I mean, the one thing that does make me kind of sad is like the time that I don't have to like commit to it anymore. And that kind of goes with a lot of my friends, is I'm like, hey, you guys want to get together this Saturday, play a board game? And they're like, no, I got a kid's birthday to go to. I got work and all this kind of stuff. But no, I mean, I still find time for it. And Whitney is like so supportive of it. We joke about her complaining about the collection, but she knows I love it, and she helps me find time for it. She encourages me to find time for it.
Hey, a cool one to look at with the kids as they get a little bit older and depending on their age is if you like the tabletop role playing stuff, Hero Kids.
You'd mentioned that one.
We brought up Hero Kids. I played that with my kids before. You can get it all online on PDF, and it's like very inexpensive. Print everything off as you need it. The kids tear shit up, print it off again, and like character sheets and cards and all that. Like it's very D&D light with some good role playing elements to really get them into it, and short sessions. So that's a cool
that sounds
one.
Awesome. Yeah,
it's super cheap. Some of the stuff may even be free. I don't know, but yeah, I'm definitely looking at that as they get a little older.
Like right now, though, my kids, like, I don't want to like push my hobbies on them, because I want them to like grow and find what they're interested in. But like, we do play a lot of games. We played Candyland. We played Pop the Pig. Some game about this bear. Do you guys remember that old game, Don't Wake Daddy?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, like that's where my anxiety stems from, is that game. But like,
mine's Operation, but yeah.
Oh god, Albert. You guys remember that game, Perfection?
Perfection. I remember the name. I don't remember it.
So you had like all these squares, and you set this timer, and you try to put all the like shapes into like the holes, and when the timer went off, the bottom like jumped up and knocked all your pieces out if you weren't in time.
Oh, there just triggered a memory I didn't know I had.
Yes,
That's
okay.
what it was. Yep. That one, there was, I remember, I'm trying to think of the games I played as a kid. There was one that involved, there were penguins. And
Don't break the ice.
Don't break the ice. Yeah, because there's like this tissue paper stuff that was like get wet. And then like the
Where you have, it was like on a little elevated piece and you had to hit one. Yep.
Yeah, like
all these memories
I had
coming
that
back.
too. But I think that's what's so cool. It's like everyone, I would say most people have a foundation in board games from childhood, from playing with your parents. And like when you
Flipping
get
a
into like
Monopoly
the
board.
super nerdy stuff like we are, like you just want to get so much more invested and engaged with this stuff that you start looking for more advanced things. And like part of me, like I told you guys, I was an English teacher. I love stories. So a lot of my games involve a narrative in some way. And like the narratives you create with other players, with the games you play, that's just a big draw of it for me.
Those moments where you cut up, or there, a good session in my mind when you're playing something, and what makes a good session a great session is when at the end of that session, you and your group have an inside joke that nobody else would get unless they played that session with you that lasts for months or years, and that joke just keeps going and going and going. That's when you've known you've had a great one.
Like, have you guys seen? You guys know about Critical Role? Like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Have y'all seen the Amazon show?
Oh
about
yeah,
that? The
Vox Machina.
Yeah. Like whenever I watch that, I'm like, that is what a game group is like. Like it's halftime, halfway through. Sorry, half of it's just jokes, dick jokes, stupid stuff, and the other half is serious. And like, there's always just a great story that like comes from it. So like I watched that and I was like, that is exactly what my role-playing group was.
And you're gonna have like 10 to 15% infighting as well. There's gonna be a little bit of that in there.
But you can't cast that. It's dark. You don't have the materials. Yes, I can. I got him earlier.
Shut up, Gandong.
I'm blowing dicks in the corner. No, rewind.
No, that's where you're like, that's where Gandong would say, I got your materials right here.
Right here.
Is it hidden? Is it
Look
safe?
at him. Look at him.
And then Gollum's looking up his robe. My precious.
There's a beautiful joke there. Like whenever he hands Frodo the ring after putting it in the fire, he goes, touch it, Frodo. It's quite cool.
The ring? No, just doing it.
And Frodo goes, no.
I don't want to. I need an
I'm
adult.
good. You can go to Mordor yourself. I'm quite fine in the Shire. Thank you.
We're not going anywhere.
The thing is, Gandong definitely could not walk into Mordor. Gandong can barely walk with that thing.
Yeah, he's more of a kind of like leaps and bounds.
It's like a pogo stick.
Yeah, I have to find a trailer. Like
he
a
wouldn't
wagon.
have the walking stick for the people to take away. He would.
That would be the
upon
one
my
like
staff.
A kickstand.
Yeah. Have you seen the staff of Gandong? I have.
Oh,
it's impressive.
Frodo's title of ring bearer
He
takes
should be
a
in the
whole new
stories.
meaning.
Yeah. Oh.
Back to board games.
We had a whole
Gandong
episode on
is
Gandong.
Gandong is such a great creation that I want to be part of the role-playing group that creates him.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out if I need to roll for his stats or if I'm gonna.
Oh no, they're predetermined.
No, I'm handpicking this shit. Okay.
I mean, his charisma would just be maxed.
Max charisma and endurance.
Charisma 20.
Definitely endurance.
Plus the ring he wears gives it a plus 10.
Why is your endurance so high as a wizard? You're gonna find out. You're gonna find out, and your friends are gonna know.
You shall not pass.
Whenever he takes a rest, he's just got a kickstand.
What are you doing? I'm just hanging out.
You shall not pass until I allow it. That's already.
Too much fun with Gandong. Okay.
I'm create a character.
Hey, Matt Kyle's rolling right now. What is the draw to board games?
Okay, like this is where I'm gonna wax poetic a little bit. Okay, so for me, it's all about stories. Like I'm so serious. The first we talked a little bit about gateway games, and I kind of want to talk about gateway games a little bit later. My gateway game was Arkham Horror, and whenever I picked that game up, like I'm always the kind of guy that whenever I was in my role playing group, you know the gnome bard from Vox Machina,
Mhm.
like that was 100% my character. Vulgar, funny. That's the kind of person I like to be whenever I'm playing those games. So we started playing Arkham Horror, and I picked the hobo. I picked the homeless guy that kind of wanders from town to town because I thought it was funny. And in that game, he basically became like a champion of the people. Like he slew so many monsters that they made him sheriff. He was just like the go-to guy for any of the problems in the game just because I was playing so well. And that creates like a narrative. It creates a cool story that like you just play out in your head like every session. And that to me was like at first whenever I got into it, that was my biggest draw. Is I was like, this is a new experience every single time we play it. It's a new story every single time we play it. And we're gonna walk away from this with great stories to tell like after. From there though, it just became about like this is a much more engaging form of entertainment. I'm surrounded by people I love. We're playing this game together. We're all really into it, and you just can't beat that. Like get together with a group of friends, get some beers, get some food together, and just have a great time doing that. And it's such a much more engaging form of entertainment for me than a video game now. Like I can sit down and I can still engage with a video game story, but it's nothing like creating your own.
Mhm.
Like
And the interaction you have with the buddies in real life versus over electronic.
right. Like there were moments in our Marvel superhero campaign that like were really funny, but also just really emotional. And like you get that with tabletop games, and you create those narratives with your friends, and it's just so like cool. I can't really describe it any other way, but like it's awesome. Like just the engagement and the fun that goes into it. I love it.
So it's the human aspect.
Very much so, yeah. Because as people, you know, we get together, we create those stories. Me and my wife have played, because I got Whitney whenever the pandemic started. Me and Whitney were stuck in the house all the time. You know, I would be like, "Do you want to play a board game? Do you want to try one of those games with me?" And I got her into this game called Takanoko, which is about a gardener that has to like watch over this panda eating his bamboo and ruining his garden.
I've seen that.
Yeah,
Okay.
dude, that is one of my favorites. I love that game. And she was like, you know, this is actually kind of cool. So then I got her the game that is like everyone calls it the gateway game. It's Ticket to Ride.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And Whitney played Ticket to Ride, and she just fell in love with it. Like her mind worked so well with that game. And again, there was that narrative aspect that we were like creating these like epic battles to control the railway systems of like America and Europe and all this kind of stuff. And it was awesome. And it was just a way for me and my wife to grow closer together. And she doesn't like everything that we play. She played one game with me a few times, and she said she liked it. And it turns out that she was lying, but she just knew I enjoyed it so much.
Did you hear the bitterness in that, Kyle?
Lying.
No, but like, because you know Whitney, and you know just like what a big heart she has. So she wasn't about to like.
She wasn't about to. Yeah, she wasn't about to stomp on your dream.
But like, she told me that, and I was like, "Babe, I don't like this game either. I thought you liked it."
How many times did you guys play it?
Like 8. We played it 8 times.
I was playing because you liked it. No, I thought you liked it. It's like a Seinfeld episode.
It is. And like, it just turns out that we were both sitting at the table bored, but smiling at each other like, haha, isn't that fun?
Who's going to crack first?
All right.
That's awesome.
But I would say that like, God, just the human aspect of it is such a just great part of it. We played a game maybe about a month ago called Oath. And Oath is this new like war game that came out. And like my gaming group just got so serious about it. And like there was a moment in the game where like my friend was the ruling emperor basically, and I went over and I stole like the oath of command from him or something. And I had this quest that was like, if I steal the oath and hold on for it to it for a turn, then I win the game. And like everyone just converged on me, and we started fighting this massive war in like the province I was in. And I screwed up and I forgot to bring my army with me. So it was just my one dude holding this oath like, haha, now I'm the king. And he got his face beat in hard because of a stupid decision I made. But like, that just creates like an awesome moment, you know?
Oh, the epic failures sometimes are way better than the epic victories. Like,
Yeah,
you seem to remember those better. Like when somebody goes down, not just a loss, but it's just like this catastrophic, big, huge, massive, like you went out in a glorious fashion and possibly broke the rest of the game for everybody else, and you couldn't continue on playing because you killed the main character off and they fell off a horse. They oh, that cut Guyver deep. That cut Chris really deep. He knows. He's gone. He's gone. I cut him so deep.
That hurts.
That's a real story. That's a real story.
I may have failed the check and fallen on the baby.
that sounds like a great story if there's a baby involved.
It was the
There
main
was a baby
vampire in
involved.
Ravenloft, the D&D settings, and so I effectively killed the entire campaign. And we had to stop playing it, so we started playing Shadowrun after that because we literally had no story left in the campaign because I killed the main vampire lord by falling on him as a baby.
That's awesome. I need to get at the table with you guys sometimes. That sounds great. Also, Shadowrun, you talk about a great setting and a great game.
I loved Shadowrun. Shadowrun was probably one of my favorites. Continue, Kyle. Sorry.
No, it's fine. So we've kind of hit a little bit, and we talked about this earlier, like how the industry changed, and you're seeing this evolution of games and things now. And your favorite game, and let's run through like a quick description of playthrough of like if you had to pick one game, your favorite game. I think you said your those Arkham horror games, I believe. You said why, but like a quick playthrough of it. If you had to explain it, if you're doing like the elevator pitch of why you would want to play through your favorite game.
Okay, so if it's okay, I've got two that I've really been thinking about.
Sure. No, it's not okay at all. We got to do one.
No,
That's fine.
you're
We
fired.
could spend 15 minutes on Gandong.
Did eat up a little bit of time with Gandong. I'm still rolling
Yeah,
for
that's true.
stats.
Well, to be fair, it would take 15 minutes with Gandong. I mean, I've seen the guy, so
15's all you need.
15's all you need, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna walk you through Mansions of Madness because it was probably my favorite one. So Mansions of Madness is very much like a D&D like kind of game. You get these tiles that like have a map on them, and you set up like an area that you're in. Now, the really cool thing about Mansions is part of the reason I want to talk about it is it's app run. It's a co-op game, and what you do is you load this app, and the app on your iPad or your phone controls the monsters. It like tells you place this monster here, place this clue here, this item here. So you don't really need a DM. It's like fully cooperative. So you get everything set up, and basically what you have to do is you roam around this like board, finding clues to try to figure out what's going on in the scenario. So like the last one I played, we were all travelers who stopped in this town and we're staying at this hotel. And we noticed that things around the town are like really creepy. Like people kept staring at us. People wouldn't leave us alone. People didn't want us there. And the campaign starts, the scenario starts with someone pounding on our hotel door, and we open it, and it's one of the like servants of Dagon, and he's like a half fish man. So it literally starts with a guy breaking into your hotel room and us fighting him off, and we escape and try to figure out what's going on with this town. And it turns out that the servants of Dagon are like taking over the town, like, and they start like running a riot in town to find you and kill you, or like convert you over to like a half fish man, that kind of thing. So like we're picking up clues, trying to figure out what's going on, and we find that the only way to get out of town is this boat that's offshore, and we have to find a radio station in one of the buildings in the town, activate it, call him, and we call him, and he's like, I'm not coming out there unless there's a signal. Like, I don't want to get lost amongst all the craziness. So we have to find a way to light this lantern at the end of the dock, and none of us has like an item that starts a fire. And where we did not finish that campaign. We died. Awful. Like, eventually what happened was the gang figured out that we were going for the dock, so they set the dock on fire. And then we tried to put the fire dock out, and they killed us.
That should have counted as a signal, though. You're like, we're gonna light a lantern. We'll one up you. We'll light up the whole damn dock. Ta-da!
Take that.
To be fair, though, if I were the boatman and I saw the damn dock on fire, I'd be like, no, they're good. I'm out of here.
We're sailing on.
But like, Kyle, you're talking about the failures are almost like more memorable than the successes, and like, I'll just always remember that session, like of trying so hard to get out of there, and we failed at the last minute, but it made for such a cool experience because everyone in the group was immediately like, I want to do that again. Like, I want to play that again. That was fun.
Still hung up on the half fish people. So was it like a merge of fish, or was it like the top half were fish and the bottom half like mer people? Were they?
So it was basically like
mermen.
Kind of had like
mer peeps.
So Mansions of Madness is all based off of H.P. Lovecraft's work.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So
it's like Cthulhu, like Cthulhu-ish.
Right. So like the Servants of Dagon, like they had kind of like scaly looking skin, sharp teeth, stuff like that. And they were trying to like summon their god or wake him up or something back in this world.
Okay.
You got Kyle interested now.
Now I just need friends to play with.
Good luck.
Oh, hold on. Wait a tick. It's been out for a bit. There's a free version on Steam.
Yeah, like what? I think I've actually got the app, like the picture for the app behind me, and like, yeah, like so, you should definitely give it a shot.
That was something else. So you were talking about the app. The app basically acts as the DM GM for this game. So is it like you have a set of board pieces, tiles, and everything that can be reused based on, so the app will create a new scenario, new match, new session, whatever, and you can just reuse what you have? Or
right. And what's really cool about it is it's never the same. Like sometimes the app will tell you to set up the pieces in a different order, so it's a different map, or sometimes it'll throw different monsters at you. So like the gameplay is so varied that like you never really know what you're going to walk into.
Okay.
So it completely changes every single time. Like it just, so is it like a chaotic thing, or is it just like a just pure randomness? Like
I mean, like there's always going to be some structure to it because like you've got to be able to succeed, but like it is like more just like randomness to it, I guess.
Okay.
And like what's cool is like the more expansions you buy for the game, the more tiles it has to like pull in and randomize. So you could get like a different setting or a different room the next time you play. It's just really cool.
Cool. The replayability of that is high because of the randomness. Random replayability.
Which is awesome. Which is exactly what you want.
Yeah. You're gonna throw down $70, $80 on a game. You don't want to you don't want a one and done.
And that's kind of where, so I love this game, but the company that makes it, Fantasy Flight, they're kind of known for creating these big games like that, but you out of the box, you have like 5 scenarios that you can play. And that's the one thing I don't like about it is kind of like, okay, I paid $80. There are 5 different ways to play it. And even though they might be kind of like different, it's going to leave me wanting more. So now what's cool is the app, you can download like DLC and it creates new scenarios using those tiles for you, or you can get the expansion and they add scenarios to it. So I fell in love with Mansions of Madness. I bought like every single expansion it has, and I think I've got like around 20 scenarios I can play now, which I think is really cool.
Oh, that's actually awesome.
Looks like they did took the same concept. They've done a Lord of the Rings game too.
Yeah, the Journeys from Middle-earth.
Yeah, like it looks like it's the same concept.
That's actually the same company makes it. That's another Fantasy Flight game.
I was looking at the Fantasy Flight games they did Lord of the Rings.
Which makes sense why they would be a little similar then.
Descent, Road to Legend, or if that's like the original Descent. No, that's a different.
Wait,
Descent.
They did Descent?
Well, not that Descent. Well, they
no,
did
no,
Descent.
I know. No, I had Descent.
Yeah, there's a Descent second
the board game Descent.
Yeah.
If you get the second edition now, it's the same. Everything's run by an app. So it'll tell you like how to set up your board. It'll run the monsters for you, so it's fully cooperative.
Oh, Imperial Assault. They did Imperial Assault. That's the one. It wasn't Rebel Alliance. It was Imperial Assault that we played that I was telling you about that I really liked. Yes. And ta-da, there it is. Son of a bitch. It's all coming together. We made a full circle.
Yeah. I played Descent.
Yeah, man. Fantasy Flight are kind of like one of the most well-known companies in board games. A lot of times, like whenever you play a board game, a lot of it's done by independent companies, but like you get a company like Fantasy Flight that's really well known in the industry, and a lot of their stuff is pretty similar. Like if you've played Imperial Assault, you know how to play Mansions of Madness.
Okay.
If you've played Descent, you probably know how to play Imperial Assault. It's very similar systems.
It's interchangeable.
I want to play Imperial Assault again now.
And I've been wanting Imperial Assault for a long time, but I own Mansions of Madness and Descent, and I'm like, it's kind of the same game. Do I really need another copy of it? And I just kind of held off.
Yes, you do.
No.
I mean,
It's
that's
on
what I
sale.
think.
We'll help you. You do.
Wait, is it on sale?
Yeah, 9%
Go on.
off. On sale on Amazon, 9% off. Only $99.73.
What is Imperial Assault?
Yeah. Imperial Assault's really freaking fun.
Oh yeah, it's great.
It's a really, really good time. And there's miniatures, which we're going to talk
Ooh,
about soon.
I need a space because it just became Imperial Ass.
Nope, that's a different game.
Are we going back to Gandong?
Gandong. It says it's free.
Well, that's the companion app. I'm looking at
Legends of the Alliance.
actual
Apparently,
game.
I already own it. Huh.
You just grabbed every free thing you could find on Steam.
Yeah, I did. Well, this might have been part of the big Star Wars pack that they had last year for Star Wars Day. That was 90% off.
Probably. So, what would you say? Okay, this is we'll do this one first.
Oh shoot. Can I tell you guys about the other one?
Yeah,
no.
Oh yeah, we got theirs too. Yeah.
Okay. Have you guys ever read Redwall?
I don't think I have.
Okay. Redwall was some of my favorite books growing up as a kid. Authors Brian Jacks, he created this world where like these basically woodland animals fight medieval wars and stuff. So I got this game called Root. Root is about the Marquis de Cat, and that is a play off the word My Kitty Cat, which I love. These
That's
cats
cool.
invade the Woodland Alliance, and they set up this giant war between all these factions. You've got like the Marquis de Cat, the Eyrie, which are like the old dynasty of the woods that used to rule before the Marquis de Cat overthrew them. The woodland creatures that like want to uprise against them, and then you've got just this rogue faction, just this bandit character that goes around screwing everyone up. And I'm mentioning this one because it's my absolute favorite war game, and it's all about these cutesy woodland creatures. So a typical game of that is like, it's super hard to learn because every faction has its own rules. Like they do not play alike at all. You have to know everything about the game to teach it. And a typical game of that would look like the Marquis de Cat. They play as like your standard, like they almost play like a StarCraft game. You know, like you gather resources, you build buildings, you send soldiers in, stuff like that. The Eyrie, they're like the birds. So they're like very formal dynasty kind of people. And they have to follow like certain orders that are set down. And if you can't complete your orders, then your dynasty falls apart and your army takes a major hit. So they're very structured, very regimented. And then my favorite faction is the Woodland Alliance. And what they do is they garner sympathy. And what they'll do is like I could send them to a clearing with like a Marquis de Cat and Eyrie faction. And if I'm able to garner enough sympathy in that clearing, I can start an uprising, and it immediately just like obliterates all like the other units in that field and creates me a small army in that field. And I think it's really cool.
That actually sounds really fun.
It's ridiculous. And the rogue character, they've just got one piece, but what they do is they've got to complete quests. Like their quest might be like find a sword, and you can like go around to clearings and like do searches and find stuff, and they like have to find all these items, and they become super powerful just by themselves. And they play like guerrilla tactics. Like they might run in, kill a couple of Eyrie soldiers, run out. They can aid in other factions too. Like you can aid characters in combat with them. But I love it because it's such a great asymmetrical war game where like all the factions are so different that everyone's basically playing a different game. And that one, I just wanted to mention that one because it's one of my absolute favorites, but it connects to my childhood because I read all these Redwall books and they're so similar to how this game is set up. And yeah.
Is the Marquis de Cat supposed to be like a play on the Marquis de Sade?
I don't know. I just knew it was a play on the words "my kitty cat," and I just thought that was cute and clever.
Which is awesome.
Right.
And then, oh, the Redwall books. Okay, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah. Do you know how hard it is to get a teenager to read those books?
Well, they have graphic novels on it now.
Yeah, but like anytime I walk up to like a kid wearing like a Nike hoodie or something, I'm like, hey man, do you want to read about this mouse that fights a war? And he goes, nah, fam, that's stupid. And he goes back to doing whatever he's doing.
But it's a mouse that fights a war and they send in to garner sympathy. Send in the mice with the sad eyes.
There could be uprisings.
There could be. You know,
okay.
like that,
I'm actually pretty interested in that now. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe it appeals to us because we grew up with that during when this, I don't know. I just find that a lot of the kids nowadays don't have the immediately, if I mean, it's like any teenagers, any adult's going to complain about this. Anything that we think is cool, they're automatically going to reject it first until they actually see it or feel it. It's they can't do concepts.
I mean, that's what I was like as a kid.
I think I think we're all like that. So how do you?
It's generational.
I kind of want to go on that for a sec. So how, with that scenario, Matt, with your passion for board games, how would you draw a teenager into this?
Okay, so
I know it's a loaded question.
Like, I've always wanted to at the school. I've wanted to start a board game club for kids because kids like get into it. They're so imaginative. Like, it's just a field that they could like really get into and have a lot of fun. And it bolsters like critical thinking skills, all this stuff. It like, just for me, like if I know that I've got a kid in my class, like I've got a kid in my 6th hour that loves Magic the Gathering. And like we talk about Magic the Gathering, we're both collecting like the newest like set of it, stuff like that. And for him, I could be like, you know, Magic the Gathering, this is such a great game. You should try this board game and see if you like it. And like, if they can get into the theme of it, and if it's something that interests them, there's like, that's where I think I would start with, is the theme of it. Because in your notes, I saw that you like mentioned like some games are themeless, some games like have a theme to them. But there's a theme for everything. There are like fantasy football board games that you can play with them that kids would love. There are Star Wars games you could play, tons of fantasy games. There's a game for anything. And I would probably start there, just find something that like they're into and be like, hey, you know, this game, it's about football. We should give this a shot. Or it's about like the Redwall characters. There's a Harry Potter game that my wife instantly fell in love with just because it was like Harry Potter.
Right.
So I would start with the theme and work my way from there, because if you can get them engaged in it and find something that they're interested in, they'll probably enjoy it.
So you're saying that there's literally a game for everyone?
Yeah, definitely. One of my absolute best friends is like, he's not a nerd at all. He's the kind of guy that on the weekend, he likes to work on his truck. He goes golfing. He does everything I don't do. And I've got a game that I love and he would love. It's called Great Western Trail. And it's literally about how you herd cattle from Oklahoma to Kansas City.
Oh, wow.
And that might sound kind of simple, but that is one of the best games I think I've ever played.
Really?
And, oh yeah, man, it's fantastic. You mentioned Euro games in your notes. Or it's one of the best Euro games ever. It's so great. But like the theme appeals to him because he likes Western stuff.
Right.
And he would, even though he's not into like the Dungeons and Dragons stuff like I am, he would give that game a shot because he's like, oh, it's cowboys. I'm all about that.
I'm looking at the board for it right now. And the layout of that board looks very familiar to what's behind me in a
Yeah,
way.
it's a very, they're both called Euro games, Scythe and Great Western Trail are both, because they're all about resource management and victory points. So it's probably going to look very similar to a lot of the games you might like Scythe.
Okay, I did not know that that was actually the name for that style of game. I'm learning something new every day.
Euro games, and that's the whole point of this show.
And actually, Chris, you mentioned let me look at
Amazon Women a Go-Go.
Yeah, I read that.
Girl with the golden boots.
Interesting title.
With the golden boots. That's the expansion pack.
There's way more genitalia than I thought there would be, but
Well, now
No,
you know
it's
what to
not.
expect. You pay an
Hey, Chris,
extra $69.99 for the Gandong inspection.
it would be
Not inspection,
$69.99.
expansion or inspection, whichever.
You got number 420 out of 420.
Nice.
Thank you. But Chris, you talked about Catan. Catan's one of your favorite games, right?
Yeah, I really loved Catan. I didn't think I would. And then I started playing it. Like I started playing it on the Xbox when it was free.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I don't really get this, but then I don't understand this game. I don't like it. And then we played it with my friend in real life, the actual board game. And I just fell in love with it because I could actually pick up the pieces. I could feel the pieces. And it was fun playing with someone. And that's what drew me into it more so than like the digital copy.
Right. And that's something that's so great about, like I said, it's like a toy in a box. There's so much to that. But that Catan is also a Euro game. It's all about resource management and victory points.
So Euro games are all about resource management and victory points. And that's what's that the true definition of a Euro game?
And also there's not much conflict in a Euro game. Like you're not going to have a lot of fights. Now Scythe is a Euro game, but there is conflict. But like just from whenever I played Scythe, conflict isn't always a good thing in Scythe. Like it's sometimes it's even something to be avoided because you just want to collect resources. And there's actually one faction in Scythe that does like encourage conflict because they get victory points for winning like skirmishes. But
they have like some super mech things that
but it kind of got me the first time I played Scythe because I was like, oh god, look at these robots, I can't wait to shoot each other. And then I'm like, oh, so the robots are really just for getting people across the river. Okay, now I know.
You know, Chris brought up Catan, and this is just from what I've heard in passing in social media and things like that, that it kind of has, Settlers of Catan has kind of developed this, like, I want to say it's like almost the hipster aura around, like, oh, everybody's playing Settlers of Catan because that's the thing that you do during pandemic, because that became like synonymous with the, I guess hipsters are the right word. It's like I'm trying to think of how to explain it the best way. From what I've seen, everybody talking about like sitting around and being extra cool playing Catan. It's like the Lumineers of board games is the image that he.
No, I 100%
It's the Lumineers of board game. That is one of the greatest explanations.
It's kind of like people that are like, oh, you like Monopoly? That's not a real board game. It's kind of like
board game.
Those people. They're like, you should play Catan. It's much superior. Yeah.
There's what I was looking for. That.
Would you say, is that more of an elitist attitude?
Yeah, and
you need to wear suspenders while.
I might be totally wrong on this, but I kind of feel like there's a strong gatekeeping community in board games where there are like elitists that are like, oh, you play Risk? Have you even heard of Twilight Imperium or something like that? And I feel like sadly that with that kind of attitude, it's hard for a lot of people to break into board gaming like on a hobbyist level because of like the kind of attitude people have about like I mean, like we're sitting here with Scythe, Mansions to Madness, and Candyland as a background. And I know that there are some people in the hobby that would scoff at that and just be like, that's ridiculous. I'm not one of them. I think that like even with Candyland, there's a great purpose to it. And like I said, the background of the game I think is really great and inspirational. But like I do feel like elitist attitudes and gatekeeping are a bad part of this hobby.
It's like any realm of nerddom experiences gatekeeping. To some level, to where fanboys and this superiority thing of, well, I found it first, or I think it's better. It's like, oh, Well, you're not a real Star Wars fan if you haven't, watched all of the Clone Wars yet, Chris. Thanks for making me feel like that, you gatekeeper.
Well, because you're a shitty Star Wars fan.
But like, it's everywhere. It's board games, it's video games, it's music, it's comics, it's everything. And like,
I think it's just human nature, though, too.
To a level.
It's such a crappy part of human nature, though.
Yeah,
I agree.
And
Makes
I
people
feel
not want to
like-
get into it.
Well, and I hope I'm not off base in here, but I feel like it's a lot of women don't get into it. I feel like they don't feel welcome.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, mhm.
It's like any of the nerddoms. It's particularly been a male-dominated field of the nerddom.
And board games is definitely one of them. So if it's okay, can we talk about women in board games for a second? Because that's a
Yeah, let's do
topic
that.
that
Yeah,
Let's
let's
do
do
that.
it.
So if you look at like Board Game Geek and if you look at the top 100 games, I think 95 out of those 100 were created by a man. And like there are some big male names in board games designers like Hugh Rosenthal. He created like Agricola. What else did he make? He made a lot of really big ones. But he's kind of a guy that's like seen as like, if it's got Hugh Rosenthal's name on the box, people are going to buy it because they know that's a quality game.
Right.
You don't see a lot of women's names on the games. And the reason why I wanted to bring up women in board games is because within the last 3 years, Elizabeth Hargrave created this game called Wingspan. And Wingspan has like exploded in popularity. It's ranked 23rd, I think, out of 100 on Board Game Geek. I might be wrong. I just looked that up a couple days ago just to make sure.
Still at 23rd. I'm actually looking at it right now.
Nice.
I've heard that name before.
Wingspan or Elizabeth Hargrave?
Elizabeth Hargrave. Okay, they made actually a video game out of that Wingspan game. That's why I know that too.
And
Okay.
Elizabeth, like I can't really call her by her first. I don't know her, but like Miss Hargrave,
You can call her by her first name. She's not going to listen to this.
well, either way, but I've got a lot of respect for her because she created a game that is to a lot of people would look at it and think that's a beautiful game. Like the art in it is so beautiful. And people would just look at that and be like, I want to play that. And it's such a tactical, it's called an engine builder. Like what you do is like you play these birds on different spots in your conservatory, and every bird does like a special action. And these special actions build off of each other. So like turn 1, you've got like a bird that allows you to collect 2 resources. You play a bird that like allows you that every time you collect a resource, you get a victory point. So you play that first bird, then that second bird, and you just start racking up the points. That's what engine builders are kind of like. So she creates just like this amazing game, and I've got a copy of it. I'm dying to get the expansions for it. It's just wonderful. But I feel like it's definitely a male-dominated field. There are a lot of like women and like I'm going to say non-binary people that are like big in the industry, that are getting big in the industry, and I think that that's fantastic. But it is a field that I really wish that it wasn't quite so male-dominated and male-favored. I mean, like you read a rule book and it always says stuff like, he does this, he does that. It's not like the neutral pronoun they, it's all targeted towards men.
Right. Would you say that's because it's predominantly been a male-dominated industry?
And I would, yeah, I definitely would. I do feel like you do see more women getting into the field, and that's what I really want. Is like my wife, for example, she always saw me playing these giant nerdy board games, and she was like, that just looks so ridiculous. And then like I was like, hey, sit down and play it with me, like enjoy this with me. And she fell in love with it. Now she's got her own collection of a whopping 8 games.
Which
But
is
there are
still cool.
games, yeah, I love some of her games. She's Whitney's very much a hardcore feminist. She's all about like equal rights and stuff like that. And she owns games based off of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ruth Bader Ginsburg has her own board game, by the way, and it's fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, it's called I Dissent, and it's a party game where like basically you bring up a topic like, does peanut butter go on does peanut butter go in the sandwich before jelly? And you have two people that debate the topic, and then the rest of the players vote on it. Now, I just think it's really cool. But
That's cool.
So like, yeah, I just feel like it's sadly a very male dominated industry that I think people need to like kind of wake up from.
Mm-hmm. That's, you know, you all have heard, Kyle and I are very passionate about women and gaming, and this goes along with it because it's board games. Because we both have daughters and we want to show them that it's okay to be a nerd. It's cool to play video games. It's cool to do board games. It's okay.
Find to like the things that you like.
Mm-hmm.
I want my daughters to know, if you want to do it, you can do it.
Mhm.
Like we will find a way, but if it's something you're interested in, you are more than welcome to do it and not be ashamed of it.
Which is a great attitude. And that's the thing. All three of us are girl dads. So I think that we're a lot more passionate about it than people who don't have daughters.
Yeah.
Because we want, you know, we all want what's best for our kids. And one of the things that we want is be yourself. You know, it's okay to be who you are. Be yourself.
No, absolutely.
Do what you want to do. You don't have to change who you are to do it. And that's why, again, why Kyle and I are so passionate about this kind of thing.
Well, even like you guys were talking about Marvel movies and Dungeons and Dragons are becoming more mainstream. Do you guys remember like back when we were like, I was a kid in the 90s and I hid a lot of that stuff from people.
You had to.
I mean,
I get beat up.
Right. I didn't want to get bullied, beat up, any of it. But I knew that I liked weird stuff. And
Yep.
Liking She-Hulk was not an option back then.
Oh my God.
Even though I love She-Hulk. She's a lawyer who can beat the shit out of you.
Exactly. She-Hulk's green. Awesome. Like even my favorite superhero is a woman. It's Ghost Spider or Spider-Gwen, like she used to be called.
Spider-Gwen, yep.
Yeah. I've got posters of her in my classroom, and I'll even have kids be like, why do you have a girl superhero hung up? And I'm like, because she's awesome, dude.
Do you want an F? Sit down.
Yeah, sit down.
Exactly.
Back to your desk, Betty. This one could be cool right here. I'm really curious to hear your take on this.
Right, you got continue the coffee's hitting, so I need to take a quick potty break. I can hear you guys. Keep going.
So this is kind of going to fall sort of in the lines of like maybe guilty pleasure stuff.
Okay.
We want to know your favorite and then your least favorite. But your favorite popular, quote unquote, mainstream board game. And when I'm thinking mainstream board games, like you talked about, like when we go down to Walmart and you can grab something that anybody can get, or, the games that just everybody, even people that don't play, are aware of, your Monopolies, your Candylands, things like that. What's your favorite? Like that would be like your guilty pleasure as a board game geek, and then your least favorite and why?
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna say my favorite. Like if you're talking just like games, like I go to Walmart, I see like a $10 board game on the shelf that I love. It's Sorry. I love the game Sorry, and like the deal is, it's mainly I grew up playing Sorry with my mom. Like I was raised by a single mom, and she would just try to get me into all this stuff. And she knew that I was a little nerd, so she would buy me all this kind of stuff that like was super nerdy. But my mom would always play Sorry with me, and I loved it. So Whitney's a big fan of Sorry too. And from like my perspective, I can look at Sorry and I can be like, wow, that is a terribly designed board game. Like you rely on a deck of cards, like there's very little player choice, blah blah blah. But it's just fun. It's just fun to like knock people off the board, get your people in, get a Sorry and like knock someone out. I love it. Other than that, Scrabble. I'm big into Scrabble, and it's probably because I am an English teacher. I'm a big reader, so I love playing Scrabble. But that's the thing is like even with these board games, I wouldn't tell people like, oh, that's dumb, you shouldn't play that. You should definitely look into playing Gloomhaven or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd be like, that's awesome. Scrabble's a great game. Sorry is a fun game. You guys are having fun. That's really all that matters.
even though you would not tell them that, is there one game that you're just like, I don't like you? And I'll have to probably say that you, so we can be fair, you've played it, and you're just like, I don't want to play that ever again.
Monopoly.
Really?
I hate Monopoly.
I hate it for different reasons. I'll play it.
Okay, you got to tell me your reasons. I got to hear this.
Well, because my reason is it's not actually getting into the game, and like once you're actually playing and stuff, once I get going, I'm fine. And you know, if everybody else is having a good time, I'm gonna have a good time. We're gonna play. We're gonna have under the table deals, and you know, you kind of get outside those rules, and you have good house rules that can make it fun. My thing is, I was in banking for 10 years, and every time we would sit up to play, I always had to hear the joke like, "Oh, we know who's going to be the banker." Like, the fuck we are. I'm not. I do this 9 to 5 every day. I don't want to be a banker anymore. And
Right.
then I think we played a version that had the electronic debit cards where there's no cash on the table.
Yo.
And I actually hated that version with a passion because, I mean, with cash, you could do some sketchy shit when you had like
Right.
piles of cash in front of you and people sitting around you and making some like side deals and stuff. The electronic version, that was just the man trying to bring us down in our Monopoly games. And
exactly.
yeah, but yeah, that's
fucking capitalism.
I pick capitalism. And like, I'll pass you a couple hundreds under the table here. You just don't pay any attention when I land on boardwalk for now. We'll work it out later. You know, but
now, so I gotta tell you the reason why I hate Monopoly. I got two main reasons. One, it takes forever.
Mhm.
Like when you sit down to play a game of Monopoly, you don't know when it's gonna end. Like that's kind of how I feel, because you can get stuck in a point where like, oh, I'm almost out of money, and then you get really lucky and you get a lot of money by going through the board or something. There's not really going to be a set point when that game ends, and that kind of drives me nuts. The other thing is, honestly, every time I would play that game with my friends, my family, someone would start a fight. Like,
yeah,
almost guaranteed that someone would get pissed off at someone else, and there'd be an argument. And I just kind of got tired of that. I'm like, guys, we were playing Milton Bradley's Monopoly. I bought this for $13 at Walmart, and you guys want to argue about the plastic houses? So
Monopoly is the board game version of going on a 12-mile float down the river with your friends. Like, by the end of it, somebody's not going to be happy anymore.
Someone's going to be burned.
Somebody's going to be burned. Somebody's going to be drunk. Somebody's going to fall off. Tables are going to get flipped over. Like, yeah.
And but that's based with my least favorite like store-bought game, Monopoly. But that's just because like, and again, I can see the benefit in Monopoly. I played Monopoly a lot as a kid. I have like a deluxe version of Monopoly. I can see what it did for like 4 board games, and there's even some great history to Monopoly. Like whenever Monopoly was created, I don't think it came with game pieces. I think it just came with like the money and the deeds and stuff like that. And that's why the thimble is like a piece of Monopoly, because people had thimbles. People would use those as like board game pieces. And I just thought that was really cool, like random trivia about the game.
What would you say? We've talked about your collection a little bit. You may have hit on it earlier when you were talking about like your first game or whatever, because I think that's probably going to, it may not be it. The rarest game that you have in your collection, what would you think is like your piece, you know?
It's definitely Shadows over Camelot.
Okay.
Like,
and we talked about that earlier, and I thought that may be it.
And maybe Arkham Horror 3rd edition, because there's a new edition out of it, but that game is really only valuable if you own all the expansions for it.
Okay. So we hit on that. You talked about Sorry probably being, was that like the first game that you played?
Yeah, Sorry was the first board game I ever played.
Okay, so this is going to be a good one right here for everybody that's listening that's made it this far. Somebody that's wanting to get into more advanced board games and advanced tabletop games without even giving a, you know, because there's so many genres and things like that, but just something that in your eyes that would check a lot of common boxes for people that are wanting to get into this. What would be a couple of recommendations for good starter games? Somebody that's wanting to get into the hobby, wanting to play, they don't know what they want, they don't know what they like, but a couple of games that will give them an idea of, okay, after I play these 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, then I'll have an idea of what I like, and it's a good gateway set of games to get somebody into the hobby, into the nerddom.
So like for me, my gateway game was one of the more complicated ones. It was Arkham Horror. And like I bought that because, not gonna lie, I wanted to look good at the GM. He was like, man, I've always wanted to play this Arkham Horror game. So I was like, I'll go buy it. I've got expendable money. That was the first time I went to like Wizards Asylum in Tulsa. Picked that game up and I was like, this game is $80. Jesus Lord. Right. But I wanted to look cool at the GM, so I bought it. And that was just, for me, it clicked with that one. But like it was the theme. It was like we're fighting against monsters from another dimension from H.P. Lovecraft's world. It was just so cool. But honestly, if you want just my recommendation for like just games that I would consider great gateway games, a lot of people are gonna laugh or like kind of judge me for this, but Cards Against Humanity is a great example. Anyone can sit down and within minutes know how to play Cards Against Humanity. It's fun. It's easy to play. It's vulgar. People are gonna laugh. You're gonna invite your uptight friends over, and they're gonna be like, "My card says penis," and you're gonna be like, "Yeah, it does." But like, that's just such a great game to introduce people to, and they're gonna see something different than they've seen from other games. I think the 2 best gateway games are Ticket to Ride and Settlers of Catan. And
I can see that.
I think the reason being is because they're different. Like a lot of people sit down and play those and they're like, okay, where's the dice? And you're like, there are no dice to this. It's completely different. And they start playing Settlers and they're like, wow, like I'm trading, I'm building roads and villages. There's an economy in this game. That's really cool. They start playing Ticket to Ride and they're like, wow, there's a lot of strategy in this. There's like a ton of different ways I can do this. I can screw this person over. I can complete my route. This is awesome. And I just think those 2 games are like, they're easy enough that like you can sit down and teach them pretty quick. And they're not too daunting to where you can sit down and like, it wouldn't scare people away from the table. They'd be like, this makes sense to me. And from that, they'd be like, wow, so these board games, they offer like just completely new experiences other than rolling dice and moving around a table. And I would say that Catan and Ticket to Ride are really good examples. It kind of got me because I asked you guys to email me your favorite board games. Now, Chris, I am not trying to give you shit, okay?
No, do it.
Okay.
Piss off, Kyle.
What got me was I looked at your list and I was reading Chris's list. I'm like, this is like a great gateway list to get people in. Like you mentioned Dominion. Dominion is a great example of a good card game to get people introduced to the idea of card games. Cards Against Humanity was my first introduction to like something different. Catan, I played that. I remember like I rented a cabin that I was gonna take Whitney to on one of our early dates, and we broke up and it was sad. But I still got the cabin, so I was like, great. So I invited a couple buddies up there and they brought Catan. And I still remember him opening the box and me being like, well, where's the dice, dude? This game's stupid. And playing it and being like, holy crap, this is different. This is awesome. I love it. But even like I didn't get into it until a couple of years later whenever I started playing Arkham Horror. But a lot of your games are like great gateway games that you listed. And you even listed like Trivial Pursuit, Monopoly. Like I don't like Monopoly. I'm not a big fan of it at all. But I remember playing Trivial Pursuit with my stepdad whenever I was growing up all the time. And like that game, even though like now I'm not a huge fan, it holds a special place for me just because of all the memories that we've got with it.
And I get that. You're not hurting my feelings at all, dude. It's like board games have never been huge with me, to be honest with you. And if I'm playing gateway games, even better. If we can get people interested in it, even better. You're not hurting my feelings at all. Be honest. If you do hurt my feelings, Kyle will be pleased.
Okay.
Will be bonus points.
So really, I should
our own
aim for
spin-off
that.
show.
You did threaten to delete all my online presence, and there for like a year, you were the most intimidating person in my life until I met you, and I was like, oh, this guy's cool. Okay.
Yep.
He's not scary at all.
There for a while, you were Gandong.
Swinging it around.
No.
It's because I do think the world of his wife. I really do. She's an awesome person.
Oh, my wife is a goddess. I love that woman to death.
You better say that.
I am going to say that because now it's recorded. And if we get into a fight, I can bring up this podcast.
We'll clip that little section
we'll just
out.
only clip that part.
It's perfect. If she ever starts doing, you're like, you know what? Remember this? Bloop, and just play it. Just that little sound bite. And you're like, oh, okay, man. I love you.
One more, just because we're talking about great gateway games. There's a game called Sheriff of Nottingham that me and Whitney have used to introduce people to board games. What you do in Sheriff of Nottingham is you play as a thief trying to sneak contraband into Nottingham. Now, what you do is one person every round is the sheriff, and what you do is you have these little felt bags, and like you load your bags up with goods, and you give them to the sheriff, and you're like, hey man, I've got 5 cheese in this bag. Now, you might have something like 3 cheese, a crossbow, and like some illegal drugs or something like that. And the sheriff can't open your bag, but he can be like, really, I think you've got a little bit something more in this bag. And you kind of barter and haggle with them back and forth to get them to not open your bag. You can bribe the sheriff and be like, no, dude, here's 5 pence if you just look the other way. But if he opens your bag and if you've got contraband in there, you have to pay a fine to the sheriff. So it's like a really cool way to get people who aren't used to like a lot of player interactivity into board games. Me and Whitney, we played this with a couple one time, and the whole point of the game is lying. Like that's like one of the funnest things about it.
I love deceit games.
Deceit games are some of my favorites. Anything where there's like a hidden traitor or a liar, it's so good. But this couple got so mad at each other for lying to each other that they had to get up and step into the kitchen and have an argument about lying to each other in a board game. And at the time it was super awkward, but now I can be like, wow, that was hilarious.
Yeah, I can relate.
We played,
I'm sorry.
Coup was one of the games that we played a lot on our little lunch break game sessions. And it was a deception deceit game, and it was very simple too. It was like a deck of cards and a few like token pieces things, and that was it. And we had so much fun playing that.
Coup gets to my table probably every single time I have a game night, because you can play that game in 15 minutes and it's just a ton of fun.
Yeah. That's what we picked up because it was quick sessions. We were looking for a quick session game, and that one, that's a cool one to look into. Chris,
is that one?
Chris,
we're doing these. I'm also looking at like Steam versions of these games because all my friends. I live in BFE, so all my friends are online.
Chris, we just need to invite you guys over sometime and have a game night, because you got to see some of these, man. Like, because I know you're a big nerd like I am. I know you're into D&D and all that, and I think that a lot of these would like really fit that like need for a lot of this stuff.
Resonate.
Yeah,
we talked about
totally
doing some like one-shot short D&D campaign stuff, like even like on Twitch and stuff, like random one. Something that we can knock out in 4 hours.
Yeah,
like from start to finish, and there's prep work to it, but still, like the actual session and streaming that would be really fun.
Oh my god, I'm glad you mentioned that. So, do you guys remember earlier how we were joking about how long some board games take?
Yeah.
There's a game that its campaign takes 3 years to complete.
What?
Is it Gloomhaven and what now?
No, it's not Gloomhaven actually. I think it's called the Campaign for North Africa.
Well, just easy. I know how to end it before 3 years. I'm not going to North Africa.
Flip the table.
I'm starting a new life in Central Africa or South Africa.
I can see how that game would start. Like the intro would be like, okay, we got to fly to North Africa, and then Chris would roll, and somehow the plane would crash over the Atlantic.
Game over. Game over, man.
Well, we're done now. So
I am looking at this game on Board Game Geek. The playing time says 60,000 minutes.
Ooh.
So I just as another fun little trivia, like if you start that game, it will take 3 years to get through it.
Note to self: do not start that game.
If you
3 years, not what?
Note to self: I'm good right now at this point in my life.
Yeah, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of time.
That's too much time. I mean,
Yeah, that's some commitment.
Which one of that goes back to our first episode, the aging nerd.
Just don't have time for these.
Unfortunately, like as much as I want there to be.
So
that episode hit me where I lived, by the way.
It hit. I think it hit a lot of people.
That was a good one. This early on, we didn't know what we were doing. And
We really didn't.
We rambled, but it was fun. It was a really good one. We did talk about your favorite and least favorite game. Do you have a favorite and least favorite genre of games?
Yeah, I do. My favorite, well, I'm gonna just say like my favorite mechanic is worker placement. It's where you like have these little meeples and there are actions around the board, and if you put a worker on that action, you get that resource or you do that action, right?
Yeah.
I love that mechanic, and like that's used a lot in one of my other favorite games, Everdell, which again is about animals building a town. I really like the Redwall style of stuff. But my least favorite, I'm not a big fan of party games. And I own a lot of party games because whenever you get a lot of people over who like really enjoy these games, they're easy to explain, they're easy to play. But like I'm not a huge fan of them because they're so easy and so light, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
and Cards Against Humanity is considered a party game. But still, I'll bust out Cards Against Humanity. We have a friend who loves Cards Against Humanity. And I don't turn my nose up at anything. I'm just like, oh, yeah, we've got Cards Against Humanity. We can play that. Just whatever. But it's not one of my favorites. But that's just probably because I know all the cards by now. So I kind of know what to expect, you know?
Right.
You have the blank cards.
We do. We filled some of those in with some weird shit.
Just write in some heinous shit on.
I did get the box, so we do have the big black dick card.
Ooh, did you like cut it out of the top of the lining and stuff?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
That was a special moment in my game group.
It was.
We found out about that.
It was when I heard about the rumor of it. I'm like, I wonder if this is true. And there was the big black dick card.
I actually played Cards Against Humanity with some high schoolers whenever I taught high school. And I played the card that said a big black dick. And I sat there for a moment and I was like, this could cost me my job. And I got up and I left. I'm like, you guys win. And they're like, what card did you play? I'm like, don't worry about it.
No, I'm good. I'm good. It's like, nope. I enjoy teaching. Not going to play this card.
Definitely want to keep this job because I love doing what I do.
I don't know if this is a good segue into the next one or not.
Is it about misconceptions about board gamers?
Misconceptions and true stereotypes. Because there are, I mean, you know, we've kind of talked about here a little bit here and there, but there's some truth. Like there's harmful stereotypes. And then there's like stereotypes like, you know what, that's accurate. That represents a group of people. Like, you know, stereotype has a negative connotation to it. Just in general, just because of society and how we are with things. But I mean, there's basis in a lot of things, and there's stereotypes that aren't bad. There's stereotypes that are like pretty accurate, especially for something like, you know, we get into a line of geekdom when we were talking about the gatekeepers and the people pleasers and things like that. And so, like some misconceptions that you would like to address about people that enjoy board games and tabletops, and some stereotypes that you're like, you know what, that's pretty damn spot on. That is accurate.
I mean, okay, I would say that like the biggest stereotype is like picture the stereotypical Dungeons and Dragons player and Magic the Gathering player. Like you probably picture a guy on the bigger side, probably not very well, like we're not well kempt. He like doesn't dress nice, kind of looks disheveled. Like look at Chris right now. Okay. I'm joking, man. I love you, dude. But like,
I mean, you're not wrong. Look at me.
That is an accurate stereotype. Good job. So that we
it's not a stereotype. Here I am.
But I feel like that is the stereotype for tabletop gamers. I also feel like a lot of people kind of stereotype tabletop gamers as like really anal. Like, like, I don't know, that's against the rules. You can't do that. That kind of person. But I feel like really, whenever it comes down to it, they're just like varied people like anyone else. I mean, I can walk into Wizards Asylum and see like a ton of people that look just like me, like big disheveled guys that are just there to find a nerdy board game. And then you see people that are just there that look like regular people. I mean, there's just all kinds of people that are into it. It's such a great, varied hobby. Like I told you, that there are so many different themes for board games that like you can find one to fit people. And I feel like that gets kind of overshadowed because I feel like, again, the gatekeeping thing, people are going to be like, oh, that's not as mechanically sound as this game or blah, blah, blah. But I feel like people just need to let that shit go and just let people enjoy the hobby.
I think that can be true of any of our, any of the geekdoms. Like, just let people be.
Like,
You
leave
know?
the bronies alone.
Well, okay, yeah, we'll leave them alone.
Well,
I mean, well, I say leave them alone, like they can stay over there and do their thing. But yeah,
we're good with that.
I mean, you know, you're just talking about like, and we've hit it several times, the gatekeeping and the superiority thing that people have over certain things. A great example I like to use are some of the games that, like the actual like video games that we play, that Chris and I play, and other friends and I have played in the past, that some people are like, why are you playing that game? It's terrible. And like, if you played with us, then you would see why we played this game. The game can be terrible. You can have the shittiest, glitchiest, buggiest, most incomplete game ever. I mean, you have a good group of friends to play with and laugh while you're doing it and have a good time and make these stories and things while you're playing said shitty, terrible game. That game sticks with you and you have good memories of that game, and you'll probably go back and play that game again sometimes.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
you know, I think that carries over to board games. You know, you could have the people being snobby about it, and like you said, you know, well, this mechanic could be way more refined, or it'd be better if it was done this way, or why would you play this game? It's because I had a good time playing it with the people I was playing it with. That's like at least 50% of it for me.
It's
You
all
know?
about the experience with the people.
Yeah.
Right. Like one game that kind of people in the hobby turn their nose up at is Munchkin.
Oh, I love
Um,
Munchkin.
Man, I love Munchkin too. But every time I play Munchkin, it's the exact same. You gather ammo until the last round. Someone tries to knock down the last door and win, and you shit all over them until they just are crushed. And I can look at Munchkin and be like, that's all Munchkin comes down to. But at the same time, I love it. I love playing that with my friends because like we'll laugh at each other, we'll taunt each other. It's so much fun.
Like, you know, we just tell everybody like what you like, unapologetically like what you like, and
Be who you are.
enjoy what you do.
Be who you are.
This could get interesting. I'm really curious on this because I know you play a varied set of games and different stuff, and this will probably be more towards the RPG style games. So DM/GM or player. Which would you rather do?
Man, honestly,
That's a good question.
It kind of just depends on like the mood I'm in. I love both roles. I love being like the storyteller. I love being the person interacting with it. That's a tough one, honestly. Shoot, I don't know. Probably player is what I'm going to go with. Just because, like, I don't know. I just love experiencing it and love hearing the story and getting through it. So I'm going to go with player on that one, but that's a tough choice.
I hear what Chris says. If you had to pick, if we were going to do a D&D campaign in 5 minutes, we were going to start one.
Then I'd be a player.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, like, hey, we're gonna start putting one together. I phrased that way wrong.
I honestly, I like coming up with the scenarios and stuff, but I have a lot more fun being the player.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. I do have more fun being a player.
My first D&D experience, I had to DM because nobody else wanted to do it, and I had all the stuff, even though everybody else had played before. They're like, no, we don't want to DM. You have to do it. It's like, I've never even played. That's cool. You got the books.
You got the like, damn it, you're right.
All right.
But yeah, I like being the player more. Like I said, I like coming up with the stuff. I like being creative, but I just think for me, it's more fun not having to enforce the rules.
Right.
Oh, I'm a terrible DM. Like, you guys did that. That makes sense. Cool. We're gonna.
All right, good. You're good.
I'm gonna like we're gonna make because I've got a role play background. It's not like you have combat focus. I think you have combat focused DMs and you have role play focused DMs. And I'm more
You
of a
never have the
role-play
one
focus.
in the middle.
Yeah, I'm more of a role play folks. Like if it makes sense and the story's going to keep going, and especially if it's going to be funny, hell yeah, I'm going to allow it. Let's do that. But
that was my DM. Like during that Marvel role playing game, he's basically like, if it makes sense narratively, then yes, I will allow it.
Yeah.
Like he would roll with it, and we created so many random different scenarios that were just so freaking wacky. Like my character could create like any kind of weapon based off of like the chi that he used or whatever. So there were some battles that I fought with like a fishing pole, and he was like, "That's awesome."
yeah,
The fact that you were fighting Mephisto with a fishing rod, that's amazing.
Yeah. Like, and so, you know, I like, man, I really want to get into another role play campaign, but I also like games like Scythe, you know, behind us. Cause that's a good, you know, sit down. Like Chris, have you ever played?
No, I've never even heard of
Okay.
Scythe.
So you can see so you get these different factions, right? You can see down below, we got the yellow wolf. I think it's a wolf.
Well, it's got the honeycomb shape, so it's like a lot of the other ones. It looks like.
And then you had the bear. And what's really cool with the hit, and they had the other faction. Which am I pointing? Am I holding the star?
Yep. You're in the
so
star.
like right here. So what is really cool about this one right here is, and they snuck this in there. It's actually led by Mephisto, because they hit him in the ranks, and that's how they snuck Mephisto into the board game.
Fuck off.
It's been a bit. I owed you.
I'm like, oh yeah, there's a red faction.
Great game, by the way. Anyway.
And I walked right into it face first again.
Yep.
I'm kind of want to look up Scythe now because you guys are so.
It's just a fun.
We both said good things about it.
It's like a lot of them we talked about. I have a good memory with it. I have a good memory of enjoying the game. I don't have a good memory of how to play the game, but I do remember that I liked the game a lot and I wanted to keep playing it, even though I lost, I think, every time.
Now, Matt, I will tell you a great one to play with your kids because they're about the age.
Yeah.
It's not a traditional board game. It's a game, you know, board game. Yeti and My Spaghetti.
I've seen that. Cooper's pointed that out whenever we pass at Walmart.
Our youngest loves that game, and it actually is a lot of fun. And you have to make a lot of. You can't be the rule nerd on this when you're playing with little kids because they're like, "I did it," and you're like, "Yep, no, you did it. Good job." You don't, want to necessarily let them win because they need to learn to lose too. But at the same time, they have so much fun with it. That's like one of those that can traverse adults, kids. So that's my recommendation for you with the kids.
Oh, I'll look into it. Cooper's seen that on the shelf and really wanted it too.
Yeah, it's worth it.
If you guys have older kids too, there's a game called Throw Burrito.
Throw Burrito.
I think I've heard of that. I think I've seen that on Amazon, but I don't know. What's it about?
You remember the game Spoons? Like once you got a certain card, you pulled a spoon out from the middle of the table, then everyone grabbed a spoon.
Yeah.
It's basically like that, I think. But instead of like, you get to grab a foam burrito and throw it at someone, and that person's like out. I've never played it, but like I've bought it for like families with kids that are kind of older because I'm like they would love this. They get to throw crap at each other, and they've always told me it's a big hit with their kids.
That could be dangerous.
It's a very soft burrito. It's very soft.
If the family's in the middle of a fight, it's like, oh, look, I get to throw the burrito at you.
All right.
It's very soft, forgiving burrito.
Very soft, forgiving burrito.
Loving burrito.
It's a loving burrito.
Much like Gandong, very soft.
It's what Gandong, very soft.
At the beginning.
When he wants to be.
He's firm when he needs to be. Yeah.
He is firm when he needs to be.
Cast spell of rigidity.
God.
Roll 2 D10s. I got a 6 and a 9.
Nice. No, they're definitely D's.
Yeah. Roll up on D's.
All on the D's.
All on the D's.
All right. Custom miniatures. Kyle, you put this. What do you want to talk about on this one?
Well, miniatures are,
would you consider that a board game?
Not a board game, but I think a part of it.
Matt would.
A big part of it, because you have games that have set pieces that come in the box.
Mm-hmm.
You have some that come, ready to customize on your own. And then you have just this whole thing of custom miniatures for, especially for, D&D and other games where you can have your own custom miniatures made or for whatever you want. And I'm just curious, like so I know you collect the games. Do you also have a miniatures collection?
Yeah. Most of my games that come with miniatures, I paint the miniatures. I love that aspect of them.
Okay, so this would be along the lines of like Warhammer.
Yeah, and see, that's where I was like, yeah, custom miniatures are a game because you buy Warhammer minis, and those are the whole component you need to play the game. Just that and a big table to like set up a war zone.
A huge table for Warhammer, if I remember
definitely
correctly.
a huge zone. But
and here's the thing about the miniatures: it's expensive as hell. Now
It's ridiculous.
It's not cheap. Well, and I remember the last time I was in our comic shop, local, which is Wizards Asylum, like they were bitching because the cost to get them in, because Warhammer is based out of England, and the cost to import them is ridiculous, I guess, right now, just with everything going up, and they were just bitching about how expensive it was. So I know it is a big cost.
Like, you can buy a single Warhammer mini for like $20, and I think that's ridiculous.
And that's one.
Right, one. I could go into Wizards and buy a 2-pack of D&D minis to paint, and they're $5.
But Warhammer, do you think it's because Warhammer, because it's the name, or do you think because it's England and they have to import them in?
I think it's 100% the name. I think it's the name Warhammer and the Games Workshop company. I think that like it's what they do. Everyone knows Warhammer. Well, most people like that are in our circle, they know what Warhammer 40K is or Warhammer. So like they've definitely got kind of like I don't want to say like monopoly, but they've got a big advantage on like other people in that tabletop mini game because of like their name and what they do.
Right.
Going on the line of miniatures, I have an obsession with a website called Hero Forge.
Yeah, where you can make your own.
Where you can make your own. I've never ordered one, but I've made so many. Like we had a whole thing for a while when back when we were still doing GTA or not Grand Theft Auto RP online, where people were getting on Hero Forge and making miniatures of their character that they made in GTA. And I don't think anybody ever ordered one, but we got into this whole comparison thing where like we were making all of our GTA RP characters. We were making all of our Red Dead Redemption 2 RP characters and making little models of them. And I always wanted to order one. I never did because they also get expensive, especially if you can get the unpainted and painted in different versions. But I think one thing that they had that's cool is if you have access to a 3D printer, instead of buying the miniature from them, you can just buy the schematics, download that, and you can print it yourself, which makes it cool. Very accessible. Yeah, they have all these different methods to it, which is really cool.
Right.
And that's actually one thing that I think Games Workshop is kind of pissed off about are 3D printers. Because I mean, you find someone that downloads like a schematic for an ultramarine, and then you can print off your own ultramarine.
Yep.
So that's why I really want a 3D printer, just so I can get as many minis to paint as I want.
The new position I'm looking at, Chris, they have a 3D printer in their office. I'm just saying. We'll talk about that after the show.
We have two in our office. I just have not taken advantage of them.
I'll wait a little bit before I do, but it's a high possibility.
Well, I can
make a project out of it.
You can actually justify it with Kyle is looking into possibly like kind of what you're doing, Matt.
I am. I'll hit you guys on it. Yeah. A little bit more after the show because it's not really related to the topics here, but I want to hear you guys' thoughts on it.
So
heck yeah, man.
But yeah, so Matt, is there anything you would like to leave as we're wrapping up here? Our listeners, anything you'd like to leave them with, like final thoughts about board games, like just anything.
I guess like the most beautiful thing about a board game is the human interactivity and just the experience. I think that like if you want to get into a hobby where you create your own stories, you have very unique experiences, and you grow like great relationships with people, the board gaming is the way to go. It isn't the kind of thing where you can get into an Xbox Live lobby and have someone insinuate they slept with your mother. It's just such a great.
You can still do that though.
You
Yeah,
can, like, for sure. I mean, we
Except
just came
you-
up with Gandong.
except
Gandong
you're-
has known many mothers.
Mhm.
If you're face to face with people and they'll punch you in the face.
Right. But it's just like, I don't know, like just sitting down and like playing that Arkham horror game where like my homeless person that jumped off a train in this town ended up saving the town and becoming the town hero and sheriff. It is so cool to like create those own stories and like have so many very different experiences.
So that's a great way of putting it. And again, it's about the human interaction, just like anything, which I think is starting to become a lost art with social
Yeah.
media, keyboard warriors. So I think it's easier to become a nerd now, or not become a nerd, but what am I trying to say?
Get
here?
your voice out. It's easier to get your voice
Yes.
out as a nerd for sure. But
Publicly
Yes.
be a nerd.
But then you can, there's all sorts of bad stuff that can happen with it too. So it's a fine balance, I think.
well, I feel like, with social media, like people hide behind their anonymity and they can say whatever.
Mhm.
But it doesn't teach us how to like truly interact with people and disagree with people. You get people around a table and you can have like these good solid discussions where you disagree or you even have like a slight argument, but you can walk away at the end of the night and you're still friends and you know that that's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
Good
And
stuff.
I think that's a great thing to leave us with board games. It's just bringing people together.
Absolutely.
So
Now,
Well-
just really quick, just because I want to mention this,
Sure.
because I know that where'd you say you live, Kyle?
I'm down in Hughes County, so way down. I'm down pretty close to Ada.
You guys should look up Board Game Arena online.
Okay.
It is a website that is like basically created all these online versions of board games to play, and it's very, very good. So like if you ever wanted to do like a board game night and you couldn't get people together,
Mhm.
there are lots of websites you can go to that actually like recreate the board and allow you to play with each other.
That's pretty cool.
okay, that's cool.
I've used
And-
Roll20 before, and we've used Tabletop Simulator some before.
Tabletop Simulator is a great one. I like Board Game Arena because a lot of the games on there are free. And if you want to pay for the premium games, it's like $5 a year or something ridiculous like that. And since the pandemic started, that's what me and a lot of my friends did was we got on Board Game Arena and we played that way.
That is cool. You kept your board night games going even when you couldn't.
Right.
Okay, that's really cool. Again, everyone listening, Board Game Arena.
Mhm.
Look it up. I'm gonna check it out.
I've already got it pulled up.
I figured you did.
Mhm.
But Matt, thank you so much for taking time out from your family, being here with us to talk about your passion.
Yeah, I
really do
loved it.
appreciate you being on.
We do. It's been very informative because I didn't know half of this. I know Kyle knew none of it because he's Kyle.
Yep.
Look at him.
Happy to be here.
So with that, this has been Every Man's Guide to Nerddom. I'm Chris.
And I'm Kyle, and thanks again to Matt. And wherever you guys are, have a good evening, good night, good morning, whatever time it is, and please be good to each other.
Nerdcore,
See ya.
rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore, could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore used to be just a made up word. MCs shied away from